Hey, Side Eye Society. What's up? What's up? What's up? Come on, get in here. So, friend, typically we do the hey, how are you? I'm not doing that this week. I mean, that sounded so bitchy. I'm sorry. Okay, real life. And now that I said it out loud, friend, I'm gonna just go ahead and check on you. So I'm gonna take this second real quick. So, friend, go ahead and tell me what's up with you. Like, what's been going on? Um, This week, okay, first of all, I am in residency. So I recorded this last week. And last week was, listen, it's been a doozy of a week for me. Okay. I'm just gonna throw it out there. But one of the things that I saw this week that had me cracking up, and it was a much needed laugh, was on TikTok in Kansas City. Firefighters had to cut apart a whole porta potty, friend. Somehow, some man ended up trapped underneath the seat, the tank that is underneath the toilet. Like, yeah, friend, the porta potties at like the fair or a concert or a big event, right? Like those porta potties, friend. Yes, that porta potty, friend. And he was, yes, friend, under the seat. Okay. How he got his overgrown ass in that seat and why, friend, this mofo climbed down there trying to get a Mountain Dew bottle he had dropped in there the night before. Now, I don't know what the hell was in said Mountain Dew bottle, but it must have been some fat, okay, for him to be stuck down there, okay? It was stuck down there overnight. I wouldn't even want it back. And first of all, when it fell in there, it was to the toilet. It belonged to that porta potty. All right. And this man from the bottom of the porta potty, while they're trying to save his life from whatever diseases he's now got attached to his body. He calls the firefighter a dumb fuck, okay? And the firefighter response is what tickled me. He said, I'm the dumb fuck, but you're stuck in the toilet. Baby, I cannot make this up if I tried, okay? Anyways, friend, I hope that made you laugh, especially if you needed a laugh this week. But let's go ahead and get into this stuff, okay? Oh, and if you just pulled up on me, you don't know me yet, I'm put you on real quick. I'm Meika. True crime is my absolute passion, is where my heart is at. But baby, don't let me fool you because I am nosy by nature, okay? I'm the friend that you're gonna call to find out about anything and everybody, like one of them ABC agencies. I am extremely nosy as hell. But friend, I only deal in facts, okay? Side eye, it goes everywhere. If the math ain't mathing, if something just don't feel right, it don't sit right in my spirit, I'm on side eye and we're gonna talk about it. But today, friend, we gonna go somewhere dark. And I'm not gonna lie to you about it. So we're gonna go to Rhode Island. Small state, big case. It's one of them cases where the crime is absolutely just disturbing on its own. And then the paperwork kind of gets crazy along with it. I'm not gonna tell you the name yet, and I'm not gonna tell you what happened yet. I do need you to sit with me for a moment though. Because before we go any further, I do need to say my piece. Some of what's in this case file involves children, and you know that I take that seriously every time, no exceptions, okay? But when it comes to the young ones in this story, I am not going to be cute or funny about any of them except for one of them. Stick with me. I know what I just said. Just let's roll with it, okay? But today, friend, if it's not the day for you to hear about kids, we understand. Sit this one out. No guilt. Protect your peace. But if you are staying, go ahead and pull up close, okay? So, what I do need you to do is put your phone down for a second because I need you all the way in here. I need you to really pull up your seat with your snacks and everything else that you got going on. And if you in a car, don't focus on nothing else but the road and my voice, okay? Now, reading this file, I was all sorts of upside down because it's just something I couldn't make sense of. Now, it's the culprit, the killer, but it's also the government, okay? Both in the same file. And if I told you, friend, that a 13-year-old murdered four people between the age of 13 to 17, you probably assume that the system threw everything at him, right? It did not, okay? And so this is not really a why did he do it episode. I mean, we kind of gonna get into that, but I don't really have a clean why for you. And I'm not gonna pretend to have it just because, right? But what I did get to watch was the system meet a problem it never built the door for. Okay. And that is the premise of this episode. So this story is about a child. And then don't ask me how it turns into a story about paperwork losing its entire mind in real time. Okay. It's all going to be unsettling, but stick with me. All right, friend. Now let put these glasses on with me, okay? Because we are in Rhode Island, Warwick, Rhode Island to be specific. A nice little coastal town, working class neighborhood called Buttonwoods. It's the kind of place where everybody know everybody, okay? This is where the state had to rewrite its own laws because of one child, and the law they wrote still couldn't catch and hold this child. Now keep that in your pocket because we're gonna come back to it as always. Okay. The murders are the setup, friend. The paperwork is also the story. I'ma keep saying it till it sticks. Okay. Now don't worry. He didn't actually walk out free at 21. We'll get there, but again, stay with me, okay? So there's a woman named Rebecca Spencer, and she's living in Button Woods. She's 27 years old, recently divorced, two kids of her own, just out here living her life. Okay. Two down, two down. Buffering already. Why can't I get through one episode without buffering and glitching? Okay. She is two doors down from a family with a 13-year-old. Okay. And the 13-year-old, his name is Craig Price. Now, for again, I said 13, okay? Not almost grown, 13. Absolutely. Yes, middle school, okay? Somebody asking their mother, can they stay outside till the street lights come on? All right. I mean, showing my age because I don't need, do kids even do that anymore? Anyways, now before I take you into the house, friend, I need you to know who Craig was, okay? Because you know my favorite book is What Happened to You. Something always happened to make somebody the way that they are, okay? And what happened to make Craig a killer? We gotta find it out. Now, Craig Price's family moved to Warwick, Rhode Island when he was young. They were working class. His father managed a department store. His mother did clerical work by multiple accounts, a stable and very comfortable household. Okay. They moved into a neighborhood that was mostly white. And so the Price family was among one of the only Black residents on that street in those schools, okay, the nicer schools, like he had higher income peers. And there was an underlying racial tension in that community, documented across multiple accounts. Now, Craig didn't create that and didn't choose that, okay? So I want to be absolutely clear, okay, and very plain before I go any further. Racial trauma is real trauma, okay? I know I laugh and I joke a lot and I say a lot of things, but again, my background is in psychology and we not gonna gloss over the fact that he really experienced racism and that was traumatic on him, okay? Now, whether or not it's sitting in a case file with a stamp on it, okay, that part I don't need a document to be able to believe. All right. Now, the part that always gets left out, friend, is that Craig wasn't some quiet kid. Everybody noticed him, friend. By all accounts, he was popular. He's a class clown. Glitching. All right. Neurospicy brain, work with me, not against me. All right. He had good grades. He played football, played basketball. His neighbors said he would shovel their snow, cut their grass, help them carry groceries. Didn't matter if his team won or lost. He was always in good spirits. Okay. Now, by 13, this young man stood 6 feet, 240 pounds. Okay. Grown man size, right? They called him Iron Man because of that. Now, by multiple accounts, this is right around when he started falling in with the rougher crowd and started using weed and LSD. Now, friend, if you don't know, LSD is also known as acid. It is a hallucinogen. Um, yeah, so he was out here, okay? LSD also stands for, let me educate you real quick, is, and I don't know if I'm gonna say it right because it's a big name, it's lysergic acid dithylamide, okay? it usually comes out on like paper, liquid, all that stuff. I'm gonna give you all the information. But yeah, he was out here losing his mind essentially. Like, because why would you do that? That's crazy. Okay. He started doing drugs. We gonna just roll with that. But friend, along with the drug usage came him getting in trouble. Okay. So he started racking up charges, breaking and entering, robbery, assault, stalking, way before he ever moved on to murder. Okay. So we're gonna hold all of that. All right. He got a comfortable family in a mostly white neighborhood, some racial tension. He was the popular kid and then the drug use. Okay. The escalating record, none of it explains what I'm about to say next. And I need to say it plainly, okay? But this is the foul, and we're not gonna skip it because I'm not gonna hand you over a monster before I tell you who he was before that, all right? So, friend, July 27, 1987, somebody breaks into this lady Rebecca's house. Remember, I told you Rebecca, she had the kids, she was recently divorced. All right. Now, the official count, the one that actually held up in court, says that he was actually there to steal money, electronics, whatever he could get his hands on. But he found her asleep on her living room floor instead. Hey, whatever you comfortable with that girl, but the way my back's set up, I don't know that I could have been laying on the living room floor just comfortably sleeping. But anyways, I digress. Anyways, all right. So he finds her on her living room floor and he decided he's going to grab a knife out of her kitchen and friend, he stabbed her 58 times. Now, we, by all accounts, okay, we understand that he was on weed and LSD. So, no telling what this kid was seeing when he saw her that made him stab her 58 times. Now, I can't confirm or deny that he was on any drugs at that point in time, but we're going to continue, okay? So, Rebecca lived with her brother. And by that same report, it was her own brother who actually found her. He was coming home off his night shift and he walked into that house not knowing what he was about to walk into. And that's absolutely crazy. Okay. 58 times? That's wild. Anyways, so the case ends up going cold 2 whole years. Yes, friend, I know what you're thinking. How does it go cold for 2 years? Stay with me because the answer is almost as wide as the crime, all right? But before we let the system off with nobody could have known, because this is the part that changes this from oversight to a misflag, okay? The family across the street had already told police weeks before Rebecca was even killed that a man was in the bushes looking in her window, peeping, okay? All of it's documented, right? And we got that from a local news outlet on record. And that report went absolutely nowhere. Nobody documented to follow up. And a couple of weeks later, here Rebecca was dead, okay? So this ain't a nobody thought to look. Somebody did call it in. The system just had a flag in hand and didn't move on it, okay? Different type of failure, the one I thought, right? We I'm telling you about it. Now, this is the part I read and I sat with for a second because after 2 years of nothing, okay, 2 years of somebody walking past that house on the way to school every single day after somebody already tried to wave a flag, building a profile in 1987 that starts with check the little boy down the street. That's not how anybody's brain was working back then. Okay. Now today, these YNs, we side eye all of the little people, okay? Because everybody is capable of anything at this point, right? But honestly, that was not how most brains worked back then. They weren't side eyeing the children because who would have thought that this kid was out here committing murder? Whatever. Now, we're going to fast forward 2 years. September 1st, 1989. Craig is now 15, high school freshman, okay? He was still high off marijuana and LSD, okay? And by some accounts, they said that night he was high, but again, I want to confirm for you, friend, I did not have a toxicology report to confirm it, and I didn't have no actual factual evidence that said it, just some speculation. So, could have been the LSD and marijuana, could have just been him being angry. We ain't got it. We gonna roll with it. Now, this particular night in September, he breaks into the home of Joan Heaton, okay? Same story as Rebecca, looking to steal something, a VCR by his own account, actually. Joan Heaton is about 39 years old. She has two daughters, Jennifer, who's 10, Melissa, who's 8. Now, some sources call Melissa 7, but it doesn't matter. She's 7 or 8, she's still a child. And Friend, Joan had bought a set of of kitchen knives the exact same day, and when he breaks into her house, he uses this new kitchen set. He gets in through the kitchen window. According to his own account, his shoes came off, so he didn't make no noise, but he knocks into a table hard enough to break it when he was climbing through. So you came through with the thought that I'm gonna take my shoes off because I don't want to make no noise. But my big overgrown clumsy ass gonna fall into this table and make all the noise and wake everybody. Okay. All right. Anyways, he kept going. He kept going. All right. So now this is where it gets a little weird, a little crazy. I mean, it's weird. It's hard to listen to. Now, both of these little girls actually watched him attack their mother, okay? Before he ever turned his eyes on him, they actually saw what happened to her first. And he stabbed Joan a total of 57 times. Jennifer, 62, and Melissa, the youngest, a combination of stabbing around 30 times and blunt force trauma. He actually crushed her skull with the kitchen bar stool. Now, friend, you see what I'm saying? Because remember earlier, he stabbed Rebecca 58 times. These attacks were so violent that the knife handle literally snapped off from the amount of force, okay? And it left the blades embedded in the body. There was a blade lodged in Jennifer's neck when they found her. And friend, before I keep moving, I need to tell you how they were found. Now, by his own confession, Craig covered all three of them with blankets and a rug after. And he told police it was because he didn't want to look at what he'd done, and they weren't found that night, okay? It was relatives who actually found them, people who had not heard from them in a few days and got worried enough to go and check on their family. They walked in and that's what they found. Now, rage eventually runs out, so whatever this was, I don't know that this was rage. Now, I don't know if the not PCP because he was on LSD, my bad friend. I don't know if the LSD really had done something to his brain cells, but he was gone, okay? Now, within weeks of the Heaton murders, investigators did come back around to Craig, and friend, it was not random, okay? He already had a file thick as a muff with the local police, okay? Breaking and entering again, theft, peeping, temper, so bad. Officers have been called to his house more than once, okay? So he already had an anger issue that was brewing inside of him. And when they were working on the Heaton case, his name was already sitting right there in the pile. So they brought him in with his parents and they asked him some more very pointed questions about a cut he had on his hand. And he said he sliced it trying to break into a car. And investigators was like, you're lying. And so the next day they put him on a polygraph about the same hand. And friend, the hand wasn't the only thing pointing at him. Whoever killed the Heatons also left their own blood at the scene, okay? A bloody sock print was left behind as well. Men size 13. Craig wore a size 13. This thing got so specific that police were stopping people all through the neighborhood asking to see their hands because word was that the killer had to be walking around hurt. And a local reporter who covered this case for years said flat out Craig was seen walking around with gloves on in his own neighborhood trying to hide that exact hand. The polygraph friend, he fails it. But failing a polygraph about a hand injury does not prove murder. That's just still a kid with a record who lied about being cut. What actually cracked open is dumber and honestly actually very sad, okay? Craig had been bragging to people that he killed Rebecca Spencer. Now what Saucy say? Cause you gotta be quiet on the creek. Okay? Why you gonna go around? You wanted to be caught. Anyways, I digress. Anyways, now him bragging about killing Rebecca is the first real piece of evidence that actually connected him to her murder at all, okay? Nobody would have been none the wiser had he just kept his mouth shut, but that's not the point. The polygraph didn't know, the finger didn't know, the fact that he was out here telling people and it got back around to the police, that's what happened. So the police get a search warrant and they stake out his house overnight to make sure he don't leave. And early one morning, a team of detectives knocks on that door. All right. Now his daddy let him in. It's a shed out back, and they found a trash bag in it with the heat and knives still in it, along with the bloody clothes and the gloves. So not only is you out here telling people you killing people, but you hoarding the evidence too. Make it make sense. Make it make sense. All right. Now, once they pull on this little tug about the hand and the knives and everything, Craig don't fight it. Craig is as calm as forever, and he confesses to all of the murders, Rebecca included. All right. Now, friend, we're gonna sit with that, how that confession actually went down, because it's not just that he admitted it. His own mother was sitting right there in that interrogation room right next to him. And at some point, she's the one who turns to her own child and says, in her own words, to tell the police what they want to know. Okay. So his mama was like, baby, you need to tell these people what they need to know. And that man was like, Mama, I did it. Y'all, I kill all these people. That's my rendition of it. All right. So there is an actual tape of detectives being like, hey, so like what happened? And Craig just says it flat. He's like, I ran into the kitchen on top of the refrigerator. It was a knife, and I just then he sighs, and that's it. It's the sigh. Now, the detectives who took that confession, a man named Tim Colgan, had been the first on the scene of the actual murders. He did see these bodies himself, and by his own department's account, he went home that night and cried. Not from the scene, okay, from sitting across the table of a 15-year-old describing it back to him with absolutely nothing behind his eyes. No remorse at all. Now, I know what you're thinking, friend. You thinking, okay, so why? What's the reasoning? I wondered the same thing. And when they asked him why, his own explanation was that his childhood experiences of racism is why. Again, I said it early on, racism is a real trauma. Whether or not that is sitting in this case file with a stamp on it, we don't know, okay? But what I can tell you, because this is where I have to hold the line, is that this specific claim is a self-report straight from Craig with no corroborating documentation behind it, okay? A self-report without evidence is a claim and not a diagnosis. But again, racism is a real thing, and so is racial trauma, and we gonna hold those two things to be true at the same time. Now, friend, it does get messier because by some reporting, he didn't stop at a general statement. He specifically claimed that he heard a man's voice inside Rebecca's house shouting racial slurs out a window weeks before he killed her. And with the Heaton family, he claimed he'd helped one of the kids fix a bike chain and walked away, believing Joan Heaton had what he described as an aura of racial bigotry. Now, I can't say that it was the LSD, but it really starts to sound like it was the LSD, but not for us to figure out. And I do want to be careful with you because, again, it's his retelling reported second hand years after the fact with nobody else in either one of those houses to confirm or deny. Again, not holding that as a fact. I'm just handing it to you as a story that he told because if I'm gonna say he blamed racism, I owe you what he claimed that looked like, not just a headline. Okay. Now, my side eye on it, even if every word of that is true, as he said it, okay, a slur through a window or a feeling about somebody's aura or energy still don't walk you to 58 stab wounds, okay, on a woman who was in the middle of moving out of the neighborhood. That's not cause and effect. That is a leap, okay? And now, friend, I just couldn't believe he was saying all of this. I couldn't tell you what he meant by it, and neither could anybody else in the room that day. And I'm not going to tell you what to do with that one. I'm just handing you what the paperwork brought me. Now, 1 month, okay, tell me if it makes sense to you because it ain't make sense to me either. 1 month earlier, this whole story goes into a completely different direction. That 1 month is about to become the entire plot. All right. Now, friend, I do already hear you. I hear you. So why they didn't charge him right then and there and charge him as an adult, stay with me because that's exactly where it gets absolutely stupid. This is the part of the file that I actually wanted to talk to because everybody who's ever covered this case can tell you about the murders and then it just stops. And so I'm sitting here like the murder was the setup. Here is the legal reality. In 1989, I promise you I'm not finna turn into C-SPAN on you, friend, but stay with me, okay? Craig is a juvenile, and under Rhode Island law at that time, that meant no matter how many people he killed, no matter how brutal it was, the absolute maximum the state could do was hold him in the Rhode Island Training School. This was a juvenile facility. They could hold him there until his 21st birthday. Wait, that's it? Nobody thought, hold on. Like, what if somebody kills four people? Like, that never came up on a committee. Nobody ever raised their hand to be like, hey, so that's the ceiling. It didn't matter. One murder, four murders, 10 murders. It don't matter as long as they underage. Okay, got it. Now, friend, we gonna keep on going because we keep waiting for the exception in that unless clause, and there's no unless clause in there. All right. Now, where my DEI compliance brain started acting up, because that's the textbook institutional failure, a hard ceiling with zero carve out for severity, no exception clause anywhere for what if it's this bad? That's not an oversight, friend. That's a design choice. And from a regular standpoint, friend, somebody had to know a case like this was eventually coming. I mean, I guess there's a rule for everything. The rule doesn't get made until it actually happens. So, we'll pull that back a little bit and let it roll. But now Craig, he he's committed to that training school in September of 1989, and the whole state loses its mind because everybody's doing the same math at the same time and realizing that this man is walking out at 21 guaranteed, okay? Not likely, not probably, but guaranteed. So what does Rhode Island do? Now they changed the law. Going forward, juveniles charged with crimes carrying a life sentence can now be tried as adults. And I already know what you're thinking. Well, just use the new law on him, friend. It don't work like that. You don't get to write the new rule that day and then go back and be like, oh, we're going to hold you to this before it existed. No, that's not how that works. Okay. And that's not me being petty. That's just the basic fairness. It should have been obvious before they even needed him as the reason to write it. But let me be real with you because I had to look this part up. I am not a lawyer. I am DEI. I am military police. I am compliance with psychology degrees. Okay. Not a JD. It turns out that this thing actually has a name and it's called ex post facto, which is Latin for far from a thing done afterwards. And it's not just a vibe, okay? It's written directly in the US Constitution twice, actually. Once telling Congress they can't do it, and once telling the states they can't either, okay? So, plain English version, because that's what I had to look it up for. The government cannot write a brand new criminal law and then use it to punish you for something you already did before that law existed, all right? Um, the reason isn't just about fairness for fairness sake. It's so you actually know what's illegal before you do it instead of the government moving the goalpost after the fact because they don't like how one particular case turned out. So no matter how bad Rhode Island wanted to reach back and grab Craig up with this new law, the Constitution said, eh. All right. But here's where they lost me, okay? The policy gap they built specifically because of him, and they still can't touch him. You can't go back in time and apply that new law to something that already happened. But Rhode Island built a door specifically because of Craig Price and then had to stand there and watch him walk right past the door just because that door didn't exist when he came in. You can't make it make sense. I mean, it probably sucked, okay? And that's a whole lot of tension, okay? A textbook lag between policy and the exact case that exposed the need for it. The system did the responsible thing and it still didn't work. But this was the case that inspired it, all right? And now this is where we get to the line because some of you already heard this clip somewhere, possibly, but if you haven't, I do need you to have some context because context does a lot of work here. On his 21st birthday, because remember way back when he was out here bragging about Rebecca, again, he still does not understand that you got to be quiet on the creek, all right? His 21st birthday gets closer and he is legally supposed to be a free man. He is reportedly in this training school bragging, telling people he's going to get out and make history once he's released, okay? Friend, we got to sit with the confidence it takes to say that out loud. Not I hope I get a second chance. Not silence, but a promise, all right? That he going to make history. And here's what they found. This is genuinely one of the wildest chain of events I have read since I've started this podcast. Okay. A family court judge orders Price to undergo psychological evaluations and treatment, and he refuses to cooperate. Now, the refusal becomes the hook, okay? He is held in civil contempt and then convicted after an actual jury trial of criminal contempt of court for refusing a psych test and sentenced to 25 years, 10 to serve, 15 suspended. Wait, a jury trial for refusing a psych test? Again, for the people at the back, a jury trial for refusing a psych test. Contempt of court just sounds like a slap on the wrist to me, not 25 years in a holding cell. Now, I had to look it up because it wasn't making sense to me. Again, I'm a compliance girly, not a lawyer. Turns out there's two different kinds of contempt, and they're not the same weight class. Okay. Civil contempt is basically the court saying, do the thing I already told you to do, and this goes away the second you comply. It's a pressure, not a punishment. That's what they hit him with first back in 1994, hoping he'd finally sit through the evaluation, and he didn't budge. So the state came back and charged him with criminal contempt instead. And criminal contempt gets treated like an actual crime, full stop. Same prosecution, same stakes as any other criminal charge, which is exactly why this one came with a real jury trial in 1997 instead of just holding him until he gave in. And the word I really had to dig into, the contempt charge usually has a cap, something like a 1 year max. But Rhode Island's own Supreme Court already ruled in an earlier round of this exact case that family courts have what they call inherent power to hand out whatever contempt sentence they think fits the situation. No cap, okay? That ruling is the entire reason 25 years was even legally on the table for saying no to a psych evaluation. And I wanna give you his side too, not that he was just stubborn. His lawyers actually told him not to take the evaluation because they were scared the results could get used to keep him locked up even longer, maybe for life. Now, once the state saw whatever was in his head on paper, that would have been a whole different thing. Because remember, he was on LSD and anything could have been going on up there, okay? All types of holes in the brain. But the courts ruled later that following your lawyer's advice isn't a legal defense to contempt. So it didn't save his ass. His lawyers did fuck him though. That's crazy. But I do want to give you the actual reasoning behind it because it's a real fork in the file, not just him being difficult for the sake of it. He was following his lawyer's advice. Okay. So 1998, he violates probation on that contempt sentence, and the judge revoked 7 more years of the suspended time. So now he's at 17 years to serve. Friend, that's already 17 years, and we ain't even at the part I'm trying to tell you about, okay? Because behind bars, he racks up what a federal court filing describes as 47 disciplinary infractions as an adult inmate, okay? Assault on a correctional officer, extortion against a guard, 47 documented infractions, friend. That is not an anomaly. That is a pattern. Patterns don't lie. The receipts keep receipt. And then this man is off his rockers, okay? 2004, Rhode Island ships him out to Florida's correctional system. Florida, good Lord. April 2017, while he's at Suwannee Correctional Institution in Florida, he stabs a fellow inmate, okay? And it's with a homemade 5-inch knife. Boy, I tell you, these inmates are creative, all right? He repeatedly stabs this person. The attack lasted over 20 seconds, and I feel like that's an eternity in prison. But this man is in his 40s at this point, okay? Still finding new ways to add time to a sentence he already wasn't walking away from. January 2019, this man pleaded guilty to attempted first degree murder for the stabbing of that inmate and gets an additional 25 years. This man has been legally required to be free since 1994, and he has spent 30 plus years manufacturing his own reasons to stay absolutely locked up. That is a behavioral pattern and one that absolutely needs to be studied, which is exactly why his case caught my attention, right? I just needed to make sense. Now, 30 years of it is wild as hell to read in one sitting. And then there's this, okay? Prison records really quote him telling guards, quote, I'm going to kill every officer I can get my hands on, just like I killed those little kids, end quote. Now, why he go and bring these babies back up? Unprompted, okay? I it just I don't got no words. Anyways, so where does that leave us? As of right now, Price is actually still incarcerated in Florida, reporting on his earliest possible release ranged anywhere from the mid 2020s to him being 66 to 70 years old, depending on how you stack all these sentences on top of each other. And here we are in 2026. So we probably should keep a good eye on him because he's not right upstairs. All right. But, anyways, mid 2020 to him being 70 years old, that's not really estimate. It's kind of a shrug. Because as of February 2026, Rhode Island lawmakers are still invoking his name in debates over juvenile parole reform. Some legislators say it's not an accurate reference to what's currently being proposed, but his name does still come up almost 40 years later as a cautionary tale that changed how the state absolutely writes its laws. Friend, almost 40 years, a law they wrote because of him is still being argued about, and they still name him when they reach for it, okay? This man is basically expected to never walk free again, which, given everything, is the first thing in this entire story that actually landed and made sense to me. That's the part of the file where I'm filing like, whoo, because I don't know if he, even at his 60-ish age, I don't think I think he needs to stay right where he's at. All right. And he needs to have a jacket that allows him to hug himself and love on himself a little bit more. But anyways, it's not really how could a child do this? That was the story. I can't say it was never the story. It was also about the institutional failure that was happening in real time. When a system really runs into something it genuinely was not built to handle and tries to fix itself in real time and still can't close the gap on the one case that exposed it in the first place. Rhode Island built that door and it just built it a few years too late for that one person that needed to be kept in that door. All right. Now, I'm never going to hand you a story with a problem and no solution. And we all know that the problem is the system in this one that I'm pointing to a solution for. Juvenile sentencing law is still being written and rewritten right now in Rhode Island and everywhere else. And people sitting in the seats that get filled at the ballot box, not by me, not by you side eyeing it from your car. Okay. It's by whoever shows up to those ballots. All right. So if this story bothered you, if the system's handling of this situation bothered you, that's information. Do something with it. Vote the seats that write these laws. Local judges, state legislator, all of it. That's the assignment, friend. And before I let you go, we need to remember that these people died a senseless death, and they probably didn't have to. So, friend, that's my side eye. Actually, I take that back. That's not my side eye because in this case, also mental health is a thing. There's a lot of mental health that is going on with him, and he probably should have gotten some help. And we don't talk about the mental health aspect of that enough. So I'm going to say it again. Mental health. Now that's my side eye, friend. I found it. I read it. Now I'm telling you, you make it make sense however it makes sense for you. And listen, before you go, don't let nobody play in your face. Take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and remember to side eye responsibly. Oh, and protect your peace and your energy. And listen, if you got receipts or something that had you like, what? Slide on over to Instagram and TikTok at the Side Eye Files, YouTube at the Side Eye Files podcast. Tap in the Side Eye Files at gmail.com because you already know I'm nosy too and I want to hear it. But all right, y'all. Stay nosy. I'm finna head out and I'll see you next Wednesday.